Hello, this is Lane Campbell from Team Lunar, and I'm going to be showing off projects so that no one will cry and the work that I did for Sprint 1 of game balancing. Alright, so I'm going to be using the level select. My level is the first level in the game, however we're having trouble with both the first and the second level existing at the same time, so at the moment only my level will be loaded in this playthrough, but we do have a transition in mind and somewhat in place that I'll showcase at the end that will take us to the next level. But my level is the basement, so I'm going to load it up and I'll tab over to my Jira. Alright, so first off, I've got the story issue basement level here. The entirety of it took me the 4 days and 54 minutes, so that's 32 hours, 54 minutes on there. And the user story is, as a player, I want a level that makes me walk between patches of darkness to areas of light so that I feel scared while walking in the dark and safe when in the light. Attached I have my bubble diagram. The completion criteria is these set of subtasks here. The first of which is to create a bubble diagram to illustrate the basic layout and the content of the level. I spent 2 hours on that. Completion criteria. The diagram visually represents each of the areas that are planned for the level from start to finish. The diagram shows the order in which the player is expected to move through the areas. Each area has a description to summarize the interactions that will occur inside of the area, and a fully completed diagram is attached to the basement level issue in Jira. And I did... How is that? There we go. I did point to it earlier, but I'll open it up real quick. This is my layout. See, I've got the start over here, and the end over here. I have labeled valve transition in each of these boxes, giving a description for each of these. The descriptions don't exactly match the layout, especially towards the end anymore, because things definitely did change throughout the sprint. Next, I've got to create the bounds of the level and add it to the main level, or the persistent level. The description for this task is to create the outer parameter, the walls and the floor for my entire level, and the level should be small enough to be completed within 3 to 5 minutes. Once complete, it should be added to the persistent level. Completion criteria for this is create an outer parameter for the level, create the floors, create all the walls, and ensure that traversing the level takes between 3 to 5 minutes to complete, and then add the level to the persistent level. I don't really have a great way of showing you that it's within our persistent level inside of the build, but it is inside of our persistent level. I spent 4 hours and 51 minutes on creating the walls, floor, and just general structure of the building. And that will pretty much be showcased as I play through the level, so I don't think it's necessary to play through it all the way right as we cover this task. I'll go task by task and we'll see it as we go. Next up is to create the introduction area layout. The description is, this will be the initial area where the player will be introduced to the lightbox mechanic and the monster as well. This section begins in a dark hallway with a single light that is shining on a lightbox. Turning on the lightbox turns on the rest of the light in the hall and allows the player to see the monster from a distance. As the player approaches, the monster will take off around the corner of the hallway. As the player turns around the corner of the hallway, they will see that it is blocked by a degree, and an open door leads to a completely dark room. Outside the door is another light box, and when activated, turns on some of the lights in the previously pitch black room, and the player can proceed inside. Completion criteria is going to be to have the light boxes in the area, have places to hide, add all the locked doors, add the enemy, their nav points, and any of the nav point changes, checkpoints, valves and gates, and player checkpoints as well. And this task took me 4 hours and 38 minutes to complete. So we'll go back over to the project now, and I'll show the introduction area. So here we are starting off. Originally it was going to be just a hallway, but I decided to show that the light box could also open doors as well as turn on lights. So we start off in a very small room instead. Here we have our tutorial for the light box. And the lights in there have turned on as well as the door opened. I see the monster from a distance, and as soon as I step out, he runs around the corner. So I go down here, I'll run into my tutorial for hiding. And this is the pitch black room, the debris blocking the hallway. I'll use the light box and it'll light up some of the room and also allow me in the door. And now I've got my valve keeping me from going back in there. I also did just reach a checkpoint, so if I die I will respawn at this area. So there's our introduction. Next we have to create the practice area layout. And this spot took me 6 hours 38 minutes to create. This area will require the player to hide from the enemy and navigate through areas of darkness. Once the player enters the room and the door shuts behind them, they are in a cafeteria, but there is only light on the left-hand side of the room, and there are tables and chairs strewn about, making it impossible to navigate in the dark. Heading towards the light will lead a player to another light box. Along the way, the player will notice areas to hide, such as lockers and tables. As the player nears the light box, the monster will come out from the darkness and begin chasing the player. This will require the player to hide in one of the previously mentioned hiding spots. Once the player is successfully hidden from the monster, it will begin to patrol around the darker area of the cafeteria and stay in its general vicinity, allowing the player to explore the well-lit areas. After the player activates the light box, a door puzzle that leads to the kitchen area where a flashlight can be obtained. Completion criteria is pretty much the same as the introduction. I just need to add my light box puzzles, have places to hide, the doors, enemy nav points, and the changes in their nav points. Have valves and gates and checkpoints as well. Alright, so as I continue forward towards the light box, the enemy comes out and forces me to hide. And once that's done, he goes off into the dark and starts patrolling that area. We'll have to cross over this one more time to get to the light box. Taking me into the kitchen area, where there's a tutorial for sliding through, and the player finds the flashlight. Excuse me, I need to pause for just a moment. Okay, sorry about that cut. I had to go take care of something, but I'm exactly where I was before. Grabbing that flashlight did act as a checkpoint, by the way, so if I die, I will come back to this area. And now we are learning to use the flashlight. Fairly simple. Avoiding our alert enemy here. To our safe point. Turn on more lights in the room. See him coming. Get rid of him real quick. And we've reached another checkpoint. So if I die, I'll come back right to this area here. Real quick, I'm going to tab back over to Jira, because we will be able to observe one of the not level design focus tasks I did, which was to change the AI patrol state to follow a pattern rather than select random nav points. This took me about an hour 43 minutes, and the description is: currently the enemy AI randomly selects one of its nav points and patrols to its nav point's location. Instead, the enemy should patrol in one of two ways, determined by a public Boolean variable for level designers to utilize. The enemy will follow a set pattern by patrolling to each nav point in sequence and then decrement back through the array of nav points. The second way is the enemy will proceed through the array as with previous setting, but loop back around to the original nav point when reaching the end of the array. Completion criteria is the enemy no longer randomly selects one of its nav points to patrol to. The enemy will patrol through its nav points in a set order until reaching the end of the array and then decrement back through the array and so forth when the public Boolean looping nav points is false. And then the enemy will patrol through its nav points in a set order and loop back around to the original nav point when reaching the end of the array when the public Boolean looping nav points is true. We'll be able to observe the situation where the public Boolean looping nav points is set to true here in the level. So we see him go to his nav point right over there. I don't want him to see me. He goes to this one now. Now he's going over to that one. And then he will go to his final one right over there. And he'll go back to the original one off in the corner there. And take this time to go ahead and activate this light puzzle here. And this gives the player a way to memorize the patterns of the monsters and plan their next move. And then there's a checkpoint and a valve. And that's the end of the practice area. Now we'll move on to the master. So create the master area layout. This task took me 8 hours 22 minutes to do, and still needs quite a bit of work actually. But description is: now that the player has the flashlight, they will need to make their way through areas of darkness where enemies are actively patrolling through. I did incorporate this first part of the description as my practice area, just as a side note, but I'll go ahead and read through it. The player will head back to the cafeteria and use the flashlight to go through darker portions of the room while avoiding being spotted by the monster and two ghosts that alert the monster. Using the flashlight, the player can temporarily neutralize the ghosts and also slow the movements of the monster. This area will have areas of cover and places to hide as well. Passing by the enemies, the player will reach a door that leads to the same hallway as before, except it is on the other side of the debris that was blocking them, and that's where we currently are now. So next, they will make their way down the hallway to a pitch black conference room with a light box by the door. Activating the light box will turn on a single light inside of the room for the player to move towards. At this area, a light is a place to hide and another light box. Activating it will turn on yet another light in the room for the player to move towards. Going from light to light, the player will make their way through the room, all while avoiding being caught by the monster and neutralizing the ghost with a flashlight. Once the player exits the conference room, there will be a hallway with an elevator at the end that will take them to the next floor and the next level of the game. So the Jira task hasn't been updated completely, and that was just me failing to do so. But rather than just doing exactly the same thing, we're actually incorporating an introduction to another mechanic, which is our bottle throw, which is a way to distract the enemy and make them run off in another direction. So some things are going to be not the same as this Jira task here, and I should have updated it, but as I said, I did fail to do so. Completion criteria is going to be the same as the previous two. I need to add the places to hide, the doors, the light boxes, the nav points, and valves and gates and checkpoints. As we come down the hallway, we are introduced to these bottles here. If I collect it, it brings up a tutorial on how to use it. And here we have the conference room. And if I throw this bottle, it'll make the enemy run right over to it, and I can get through where I need to go. And here we have the first light box in the room. We'll hold it down. The enemy starts to patrol in a different area. We see the lights turned on over there. I'm going to grab another one of these bottles. Looks like the alert enemy caught me, so the enemy is going to be aware of my position and run to here. So I'll hide behind these. We are also running into a strange issue where sometimes the enemies aren't patrolling right away when the game starts. Like you'll see one of my alert enemies right over here just standing there. It's kind of strange. I'm going to go ahead and let him catch me, just to show one of my checkpoints here. And yeah, see, he's patrolling correctly now that he's been interacted with, but that's something we'll have to iron out in the next sprint. Make him go away real quick. I'm going to hide off in this direction if I can. I think he's going to come this way, though. Might not be a bad time also to tab back over here and talk about some of the later stuff. So playtesting the level, I had the description of playtest the level yourself, and also have at least 3 other people playtest the level, not my teammates. Completion criteria is playtest the level yourself, have 3 people outside of the project playtest the level, and then take notes on all the experiences. This task was 2 hours and 12 minutes long. I didn't get the full 3 playtesters. I actually only got 2 because I was running out of time. But I did collect some data, and this area that I'm at currently, the master area, I'm finding to be really difficult, and it's even difficult for me. So that's something I took note of and want to iron out in the next sprint as well, make this area a lot more beatable. I just kind of ran out of time at the end there. Now that the level's been created, I should have a lot more time to balance it. And then next I have make adjustments based on playtests. I did have a little spare time to try and make it a little bit easier. It's still too hard, but I spent an hour 56 minutes making adjustments based on those playtests. Description is using what was gathered from the playtest, make adjustments to the level to improve the overall experience. completion criteria, since it's kind of ambiguous, is just make adjustments to the level using what is gathered from playtests. And there's still obviously a lot more that I can adjust, so that will carry on to next sprint for sure. Alright, so we'll go back. Make him go away. One of the things is I need to kind of clear out these hazards. They're very difficult to maneuver through at the moment, so that's certainly something I'll look at. Have this guy come around. Wait for him to pass through. So I can get him with the flashlight and it can go away. Go away, please. Thank you. And I've got this light box. Turns on that light and activates another light box. Now the object is he's obviously patrolling around that light box, so I have to make use of my bottle throw in order to get over there. Problem is this guy keeps coming up and telling him where you are when you're trying to throw your bottle. It makes it very difficult. And also when we have both levels loaded, oh, and he saw me, so I gotta hide. It's a little too cramped for all I wanted to do at the moment, so I'm thinking of not expanding the level, but rather cutting some of what I've got going on here. I think that's the best thing to do. Oh, see. He comes around to ruin my day. But yeah, I would like to make this easier to complete, because even as the designer, I struggle to complete it. So now that I've thrown that there, we will go check that area out. I'm free to run to this spot. Try and get some of this on before he gets over here. I have a place to hide right behind, and that's where I'll take refuge. So now I can throw another bottle into this area, make him get out of my way so that I can complete this light puzzle here. That opens the door. Wait for him to move around, avoid these hazards. And I have a valve and checkpoint, which takes us to the transition area to next level. This one took me 41 minutes. The transition will be an elevator at the end of a hall that goes up to the next floor of the building. The completion criteria is make a hallway with an elevator at the end, make the elevator doors close when the player steps inside, and make the elevator open at the beginning of the next stage of the game. As I said, only my level is currently loaded, because we're having trouble with both of them existing at the same time. But I will show the elevator functioning. So I open it by pressing the button, stepping inside, I move up, and what's supposed to happen is this opens, and this is where the Eris's hospital main floor level will be, and the player can step out and go there, but as you see, it's not there currently. So once we figure out how to get our levels to coexist, or maybe to load the level in an easy way during next sprint, these things will actually be connected properly for the review video. At the moment, the instance where we have both levels loaded does exist in the build. It's just there's too many bugs with it at the moment to properly showcase all the work that we've done. And I believe the only other thing I have is this task here, which is not very easy to showcase either, but it's to create a single level and use level streaming to bring in smaller sections of the map. Basically what I've been saying, to have my level and my teammate Eris's level exist at the same time and let the player go from one to the other. The level will not use world partitioning. This level will hold other smaller levels that make up the different sections of the map. The completion criteria is to create a persistent level to contain all the sections of the game, and then to ensure that the level is not using world partitioning. I don't have a good way of showing that right now because, as I said, having both levels loaded at the same time is buggy. I don't think I'd be able to get through the level very quickly to show that we actually do have them existing at the same time and are connected. So unfortunately, I won't be able to show that. But those are all my tasks and criteria and the end of my level. So thank you for watching.
Hello everyone, my name is Eric Story, a member of Team Lunar, and welcome to the game that's called So That No One Will Cry. So we're gonna be we're gonna be talking about the tasks that I done throughout the sprint, and also the one that my level design in my role is called the hospital level. So around here, oh yeah, before I continue, just want to be aware that there is a hole for the elevator, just for the transitioning from the basement level, and also it is exactly for the it's actually for the bomb for the abandoned hospital level and added to the persistent level. So so both the basement and the hospital levels are pretty much levels, but they are added to the persistent level. All right, and back to the introduction. As you can see, there's a bed right here. There are tables. This is a puddle right here, but I want to call it blood. But it actually makes you stuck. It actually makes you stuck though. And so we get this. So we got the introduction right here. See the enemy right here. Up there he is. And we got the locker around here. For hiding, you need to control your breathing to stay hidden. To control your breathing, press spacebar. It is exact. The tutorial of hiding exactly in the basement level. So we're gonna hide here for now. At this moment, we felt that. Will the enemy still get us? Nope. So that means we're good. As long as the enemy's not around us, we're fine. All right. So this is the introduction of this area. So the introduction level is actually finished, but which is shown all the way right over here. So my introduction level, my introduction level is actually 4 hours long. But overall for my level, for my population, my ASIN level, which is the hospital level. So it says here, as a player, I want a level that can make me explore abandoned rooms, so I can feel terrified while walking around dark areas and areas with light. What it means by light is like when we see monsters, but in dark areas especially we see ghosts. So my level design is actually so the level design is going to be it's going to be transitioned into an abandoned hospital from the basement, which is actually the first level. After they exit the basement level, they'll be introduced. They'll be introduced to a war, which is the flashlight. We're not exactly in a persistent level at this point. So as the and this is the level design, but the completion criteria is right here. So we get to cross the flashlight's roar since we're not in the persistent level. The player will grab the keys. The player does darkness monster. The player avoids the main enemy by hiding in lockers under the bed. The player will use the flashlight, but we're gonna cross that out also. The players will grab the crowbar as a reward in the next room, and players solve all the puzzles. So what I mean by puzzles, which I'm gonna get at, in the practice area here, there is a generator right here that is missing the puzzle pieces. And so I added the generator puzzle to my own level, which means that you have to find the pieces to the puzzles for the generator. And as you can see here, also I want to count the keys. I want to count the keys also. and name the keys. The keys are exactly called the lock keys, and these are for lock. And the keys are for locked doors, not for the Well, not for the exit. The exiting. So we're gonna collect that, and now we're gonna head in this area. Open the door. We can see the enemy right here, and yeah, there is a there's a cage right here, which means that we get to trap the enemy. But it's not in the Jira task log. But we gotta be careful. Careful that if the enemy sees us, there we go. And there's a key puzzle. So there's a machine that has parts missing, and these parts will be scattered around the area. Pick them up and individually carry them back to the machine in order to progress. Hold left mouse button to carry an item at this point. Alright, and so we're gonna carry that before the enemy catches us. Hopefully we're good. Yes, we're fine. Let's dash to it. And now we get to connect these. And there's text pop up that it looks like it's missing pieces. I bet if I find those, I could get this working. But it kind of seemed like the text doesn't disappear at this point as soon as we either move it, either move from it or at least it doesn't really disappear. Doesn't really appear at this point. Anyways, so now we're gonna trap the enemy. Alright, so we can see the enemy AI trying to break free. Let's dash to the generator. Oh yeah, as we can hear the sound effect and something broke, which means that the enemy has escaped. As you can see here, the enemy's right here. Well, quickly, we're gonna have to open this door right here. But for now, we don't have a flashlight with us, so we're gonna just dash through it. But as you can see, the ghost doesn't really kill us. They just alert the enemy. They just alert the base enemy at this point. And now we got through it. There's a crowbar right here. The crowbars and broken doors. Crowbars can be found laying on the ground. Pick up the crowbar by interacting with it. Once picked up, the crowbar icon will appear at the bottom right. Open broken doors with the crowbar by mashing spacebar. And so the crowbars and actually introducing to you. It's actually part of the level where you can break through broken doors and things like that. And these are required for the level, of course. All right, so let's head back to the level and let's demonstrate. So, in order for you to break the broken door with the crowbar, what you do is click on the left mouse button and mash spacebar to break open. And you're gonna do that again. Here we go. Oh, we gotta be careful because the enemy. All right. Also, I want to point. Oh yeah, I also want to point out about the enemy AIs and the navigate and nav points, which actually goes in the right directions. So I added enemies into levels. They're like amount of enemies the base enemies. The small enemies are included, but these aren't going to be these aren't exactly going to be part of the level though. But the ghost characters, yeah, the ghost characters are included in the level, but we will not be defending him. We just need to run away from them. That's what we're going to be doing. and that point's not random, and which actually walks around the correct areas, like so. All right, let's get back to the game. And now that we got the crowbar, we finished the practice area. Oh yeah, just to worry out. When you're in the persistent level, the enemy, the flashlight will be like a master area for the practice area for the crowbar for the practice area in this level. So they will need to so they will need to so once you use a flashlight on the enemies, they will disappear. All right. So here, as you can see here, there's a maze like which door is the correct door. Either way, it doesn't matter which door you pick. There's gonna be one good one right answer, but at least like three of them will be like wrong answers. Like these doors as an example. But we're gonna try out this door right here, see what happens. And as you can see here, this is the correct one. And we got the we can see we got the part of the piece of part of the puzzle. And then we're going to go in here, but this is the key required, which is actually not the key we got right now. But there is a key that's sitting right here. So let's grab that. And now we're going to open this door. And also the practice area is also completed. Which shows right here which part of the layout for the level. Which actually took me like 3 hours 54 minutes long to complete the practice area. I was trying to figure out things for like locking the hallway that is pretty much located right here, but it's actually locked, so we can't exactly walk into it and explore it. Anyway, on to the master area, which is actually a quick way to leave, but we're gonna have to we gotta be careful since the ghost is right here. And there it is. This is the main exit, but it requires a crowbar. So that's which one we got right now. But first of all, let's be careful before the ghost catches us. Let's say right here and let's see what happens. Okay, let's go. Up and that was close. All right, so now that the generator puzzle's complete, we get to click on the left mouse button, and now the door will open. So the ghost had disappeared. Now that the ghost has disappeared, we get to exit. And so the crowbar doesn't work anymore because we only can use the crowbar in like 3 to 4 times, and then it will break. But there's a crowbar right here, and now we get to leave. And that's it. That's it. That's pretty much it for the master area, which honestly took time to figure out. And also, I did some playtesting for the level, just so I can see if I can make some adjustments that I can make for the level. And then actually, I mean, the first time I playtested, it kind of turned out okay, but I kind of need some things that need to be fixed, or mechanics that need to be fixed, or some things like that. And also because the AI, of course, AI wasn't moving. I forgot to add nav mesh at this point. And now let's find the master area layout, which took me about 3 hours and 18 minutes to figure out what can I add, or what could be included for the master area for the layout. And yeah. And so now that we got the other crowbar that we found, We can just break this open, and now we get to escape. Hatching that survives will only perish at a later date, but applause and recognition must be paid in kind. With that said, good job, for now at least. And this right here is a win collision where the player is where the game will let us know where the player will like where the player escape. I mean when the player escaped, which shows that they escaped and they won. And it's like 30 minutes long. 30 minutes long for me to find where I could like locate the win collision. I thought about putting that far away, have the player run, and then at the boss there, but I end up running a time at that moment for the sprint. So I decided to put it near the exit. And yep, that's it for me and my that's it for my level in a Jira task. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Hi, this is Keith Patty for Team Lunar, and I'm going to be showcasing the work that I completed and the Jira tasks for the sprint of our project so that no one will cry. So I'll load it up real quick and get into the Jira tasks. I'll go right over to here. So the first one I want to talk about is reduce the processing power needed for the bottle aim line and polish trajectory interaction and mechanic. Use the story. As a player, I want a trajectory line that will indicate where the bottle is going to land when I throw it that doesn't cause issue or frame rate drop and feels like it runs smoothly. Total time for this task is 1 day, 3 hours. And the completion criteria is the bottle aim trajectory line has been removed. New feedback has been implemented on or trajectory line has been replaced to cause less strain on the game. Ensure that the bottle throw line does not inhibit game performance. Allow the bottle throw and trajectory line to follow the camera. Allow distance of the bottle to be adjusted by player to a minimum and maximum value. Ensure that the bottle shatters at the right time based on the bottle impact point. Ensure that the bottle throw distance resets back to default after the bottle is thrown for consistency. Change control mappings to feel more intuitive with PC grenade throw standard. And ensure that the bottle spawns the UI based on whether or not the player has seen the tutorial appropriately and that widgets don't overlap. Alright, so I'll jump into the toy box real quick just to show that because I have a couple of bottles here. Grab it and we see that the tutorial pops up. There is no bottle icon down here, and I'm going to get into the controls while I have it up real quick. So now it's been mapped to the right mouse button aim, release it to cancel, press the left mouse button to throw, and as I said, release it to cancel, and then the scroll wheel up or down will change the distance. Alright, so now we have the bottle. There's a little bug going on. Actually, no, it actually worked. Alright, so we throw in the bottle. I guess I'll talk about the impact point first, since I kind of did that by accident, and then I'll pick up the other bottle. So as you can see, there was a little sphere trace that pops up, and this floor is actually a blueprint after all of its own that the bottle detects and will shatter on impact, so that way it doesn't hit something else and shatter in the air, or hit off a wall and break there and spawn a hazard in a weird place. Now, as you can see, when I picked up that second bottle, there was no tutorial screen and the widget still spawned in. A little bit more of what I did with that task there. And then I'm going to show, as you can see, the aim line doesn't cause any frame rate drop or anything like that. And you can move it up or down, left or right, and it'll follow the camera. Lastly, you can adjust the distance up or down, as I mentioned, and when you reset or cancel the throw, it'll reset back to its original distance. So you can see I can move it back up or back down. Yeah, and I want to say that's basically it for the bottle. Oh, and you can see that the trajectory line has also been replaced with a bottle for the static mesh to kind of give a little bit of a clearer picture. And as I mentioned, it's not dropping any frames or anything like that that makes the game slow down to a real problematic point. There's a little bug going on with the throw where it doesn't always release. I gotta figure that out. But with that, I'm gonna to get into the next tier test that I want to talk about because I can actually show it right here in the toy box. Is the light box. Um, Feels like it takes too long to complete because of the camera angle cutting the top of the meter off screen. This one only took me about an hour and 30 minutes. Um, and the user story is, as a player, I want the visual feedback of the light box to line up with the timing and the mechanics so it feels like it flows more fluidly. Um, and the completion criteria is that the light box camera component has been moved to include the entire view of the bar, and the light box has been tested to see if it feels appropriate. So I'll jump back into the engine real quick and walk over to the light box. In part of that testing, I sped up the timeline to make the bar feel faster, and I also increased the time it takes for the camera to blend so that way you can actually really see that bar going up too. And now, as you can notice, the entirety of the bar shows in that camera view angle. So it's meant to just kind of speed things up a little bit and make it feel a little better as well. Less waiting. So with that, I'm going to get into the next thing that I want to showcase, which is probably easiest to go with the sprint train. So we reworked this sprint train so that the player can regain stamina faster than it is drained. As a player, I want to be able to sprint more often to allow escape from the enemy AI, and I would like my stamina to regenerate faster as the players use the story. And the completion criteria was to change the sprint drain from timeline to drain on event timers, create new variables to track and regen amounts and intervals, set up event timers and custom events for drain and recharge, and ensure that all timers are cleared and validated in the right places. I don't know if I said it, but this took me a total of 4 hours and 30 minutes. So now I'll just jump in. We can see that we do have a stamina bar now that the variable is actually bound to. And when we start sprinting, it will decrease. And when we stop, it will increase. And that will remain true if the player stops moving and continues to hold down sprint so their stamina doesn't drain. I am currently holding in sprint every time I stop, and you can see that it is still going back up based on their movement. The other thing with the sprint that I did want to cover real quick too, and I'll jump over to that test just because it is a bug worth mentioning real quick that I took care of that has to do with this, is the stamina drain while the player is holding down shift and not moving. It only took me about an hour to fix if you kind of throw it in with everything else that I was doing with the sprint drain. Kind of took care of it. So I'll just throw that written right there, and you can see I'm holding down the shift. You can hear me doing it. It's not draining, and then as soon as I start moving, it'll start to go down. That's really all that there is with the sprint, and I'll jump into another task based on like movement and stuff real quick just to get that out of the way. Let's go to the crouching widget. Very simple, only took about an hour or so just to get this in there. Add the crouching widget to the player's blueprint and properly reflect the player's crouch state. As a player, I want to have clear indication to tell whether or not my character is currently crouched. Since stealth is going to be essential to avoid the enemy, it will be useful to me if there's an icon on the screen to communicate the information. And the completion criteria was just for me to have it add it from the player blueprint to the crouch widget, add the blueprint, add the widget with the blueprint for the player, and then remove it when they stop crouching. And I'll demonstrate that right now real quick. So you can see there is a crouch icon now when the player actually crouches, and it goes away when they uncrouch. Alright, why don't I go into the flashlight real quick? Because this was actually very similar to the stamina drain. So we'll talk about the pickup object for the flashlight. As a player, I want to be rewarded for my progress with a rechargeable flashlight that can be picked up by interacting and have it turned on by pressing S. Altogether, this task took about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and the completion criteria is creating the blueprint interface. Interact interface has been implemented to the blueprint itself. The blueprint sets the flashlight to true on player, binding the flashlight to the checkpoint system in case we needed it to respawn after the player hit a checkpoint or um, retain its state, whether it had been picked up or not, and then implement the tutorial UI that was created by my teammate Lillian. So I'll go over to that real quick and pick it up, and then I'll jump into the test with the actual functionality of the flashlight because we changed some of that around too. So the tutorial will pop up, and then we have this battery icon here, and very similarly to how the stamina works, we have the flashlight. So we set a limit on the flashlight to run out of battery and slowly recharge. This was swapped out for the pickup widget, and I did this before the sprint, so it took me a little longer. It took me about 5 hours with the help of one of my teammates kind of working with me on it at the same time. Like, we got through it together. And the user story is, as a designer, I want my player to have access to the flashlight to use without having to collect items to charge the item, while still limiting how often they can use it. The completion criteria is that the flashlight slowly drains. Really, it should be maximum value now, but when I planned it, it was a little bit different. Say a flashlight slow drains from max volume to about value of 0, and then bound to a progress bar, and then the flashlight charges back to the full value from 0, which is how it's actually set up. So I'll just, and we can see the player has the flashlight spell and all that. So now we can turn on the flashlight, and we can see the battery slowly start to drain. And again, very similar to the stamina. A little bit more checks went into the stamina than the flashlight because there's a lot more going into whether they can sprint or not. But they basically kind of drain the same way based on those event timers and recharge when the flashlight turns off. Or when it runs out of battery for that matter, which I'll demonstrate it going fully out and turning off and then starting to recharge before I move on to the next task. Right, and it'll start to go back up. When we have charge, we can activate it again. Now, I'll go into another gear test. Why don't we do the crowbar? We'll go to the crowbar next. Okay. So make the crowbar an item that can be used repeatedly instead of a single use. This one took me 2 hours and 55 minutes. And as a player, I want to reach a point in the game where the crowbar becomes a relevant mechanic to be used in different ways. I want the crowbar to remain in my inventory for later use and not break or become discarded after use. Completion criteria is the broken door no longer removes the crowbar from the player's inventory. The cage no longer removes the crowbar from the player's inventory, which the player has, or the cage has kind of changed around a little bit with the planning. And I'll get into that a little bit after, which the cage doesn't work with the crowbar at all anymore. So that technically is true. Ensure that the UI is no longer removed from the player's HUD, and implement durability for a crowbar so it breaks after 3 uses. I actually still have to remove the UI from the player's HUD after the 3rd break because it shouldn't. It should break after 3 uses. All right, but the UI will not communicate that currently, so I just forgot to throw that out there now. So we can walk over to the crowbar, then we have it. Walk over to the door, and quickly break. Get that open. We still have the crowbar. We still use it. And then after the 3rd one, like I said, the UI is still there, but we don't have it in our inventory anymore. That variable has been set to false. I guess I'll go back to the toy box one more time to show the next one. Just setting it up so that way I can actually get to the area that it's at, which is going to be the elevator. No, I'm kind of jumping around. I'm just trying to go in what makes the most sense for what I have access to in the toy box, and then I'll jump into one of the levels for the last stuff. This one is create an elevator blueprint that travels up at a set distance that can be edited in the engine. This was meant for my level designers to be able to have a transition into their levels, and I just worked on the blueprint for the elevator itself. Right now, it only travels up because it was done pretty quickly, but as a level designer, I want an elevator that can use it that I can use as a transition between levels as we use the story, which is what I kind of just mentioned. Um, and then it took me only about an hour to make the blueprint, and the completion criteria is that the elevator blueprint has been created, doors open on the push of a button, and then the doors close and travels up, and the doors open when complete when we call the function, which right now it's just being called when the player walks in. So I'll demonstrate that in this little demo elevator right here. You can see that the doors will open up, little, and then it'll close, go up to the set distance, which I just left for the default in the toy box, and then you'll see that it took us up. Obviously, players will not be jumping out of elevators and levels, but yeah. So that's basically it for the elevator. It only travels up. In the next sprint, if we need it, I can definitely work it to travel down, but that's basically all there is to it for that one. And I'll get into the next tier test real quick. So I think now, since we've covered most of it, we're gonna go talk about the animation for the monster, and then we'll do the cages, and then we'll go through the bugs, and then we'll be done. So I'm gonna go to the animation montage, adjust for the trapped in. Oh no, wait, no, this one got thrown out the window. Forget that one. That one didn't get completed because we didn't want to do it. What I was going to go to was add a state to the enemy AI for being trapped in the cage to play the animation and keep the AI stationary. So it had this issue of clipping through the cage when it was trying to break out, and this test was just meant to make it so that didn't happen and he stayed in place. So the user story is, as a player, I want the monster to be trapped in their cage and attempt to break it open without the limbs of the mesh clipping through the door to the cage. This one took me about 3 hours. Um, Added the new state to the enemy AI's animation grass is the first completion criteria. Next, the state machine or NM notify has been set up to play the animation when it is called, and the code for the cage has been updated to call the state when the monster is trapped and allow the monster to face the door. So we'll move into that and go into the actual level for the cages because that's the easiest place to get to it. Go to the cage trap real quick, and then we'll press this button here. Tutorial screen pops up. And I think currently, right now, I actually have the boolean on the players set to true for having a repair tool by mistake. So that's why that wrench icon is already in there. So that's just something that slipped by me. But you can see here, he's in the door, and he's not moving into the door or clipping or anything like that. Just gonna repair it. I'm just gonna go over here and grab that. I don't know why that UI icon is there. But repair the cage real quick and just quickly demonstrate again that, because I know I kind of missed it on the camera there. But yeah, he won't clip through the mesh anymore. He stands in place, and once that cage breaks, he goes out to patrol. And that'll actually get me to the last as he so rudely interrupts me. This will get me to the last task real quick, which has to do with repairing these cages. Something's going on with the UI. It shouldn't show that I have one currently, but I'm going to jump over to the Jira task and just show, even though you've already kind of seen it, just for call. going to create a separate repair tool for the cage that can be swapped out as a static mesh on the crowbar to allow it to run separate code based on its static mesh. So those wrenches actually are crowbars. Use a story. As a player, I want separate tools to repair cages and broken doors, so that way that is clearer than me what each mechanic is used for. And as a designer, I want to prevent soft locks from happening to my player if they run out of crowbars from the cage and don't have one to open the door with. This one took me about 3 hours to complete, between just making sure that the um, mesh was actually swapped out and that it was running all of the correct functionality based on the um, static mesh. And there was a lot of like combing through the crowbars and stuff like that and adding in branches and stuff to make sure that those checks worked. But you did see that it does run. I'm going to play the cage animation one more. Actually, I already did. So I have one of these. I pick it up. Again, I don't know why the UI is not working. But I can repair it, and we have to also update that little dialogue text, which we might actually update. But we can see that the wrench will, in fact, repair the cages. And I'm just going to go over real quick and make sure I didn't miss anything in the JIRA tests, and that should conclude it. Bottle throw, crowbar. And we also, just to mention, it does only work one time, as you already saw in the video. So the crowbar will take 3 times to stop being effective and useful. The repair tool of the wrench will actually remove from the player's inventory right after they use it as well. Just one last thing I wanted to cover real quick. I'll just show that I can't actually repair it unless I go and pick one of those up. Because we've already used it. And I don't have one. That is weird. Oh, I guess I did have one in my inventory. Maybe there's some kind of bug going on with the UI right now that it's not removing it, but sorry for the extra time. I'm just gonna double check real quick. Not really looking to do it, but that should wrap just about everything up for my JIRA tests. Yeah, we did that one. So yeah, that's everything, and we can see I don't have it in my inventory, just to show that it actually does need to go be picked up again. And earlier I showed that you can pick one up if you already have one. So it functions exactly the same as the crowbar did for the cages, but it's been completely swapped out to a new mesh and new functionality based on that mesh. But that's it for my video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Gavin Wood, and this is my Sprint 1 review. I'll go ahead and launch the game. I will mainly be playing the basement level because all the tasks I worked on can be found in that level. Go ahead and get close to the lockers and show off my first task. Go. Okay. So right here, make skill check ramp up in speed if you continue to stay hiding. User story: as a player, I want the skill checks to become more challenging the longer I sit and hide to keep the game engaging and prevent long periods of hiding with very little challenge. Description: currently the player will be prompted with a skill check while hiding. The skill check is quite easy and doesn't get faster. The goal is to have the skill check now ramp up in speed and difficulty the longer the player stays hiding. This will guarantee limited hiding time and provide a fun challenge task for the player if they seek refuge from the monster. Completion criteria: the skill check begins ramping up in speed the longer the player hides inside the locker or other future hiding places. The subtask: add functionality that makes the skill check ramp up the longer the player is inside the locker. Add functionality that prevents the player from just leaving the locker and getting back in to reset the timer. Bug test new additions to skill check. And I logged a day and 3 hours. It went slightly past the allotted time I had for it originally, as this was pretty challenging to get going. So if I get in the locker, it's just normal speed, nothing crazy. The longer I stay in, you'll notice the bar will get smaller and the speed will get quicker. The speed doesn't get insane. Oh, I just messed it up. Speed doesn't get insanely quicker, but the bar definitely gets smaller. I felt like it was more fun that way the more I went with it. So you can see the bar is significantly smaller than when I originally started. And it gets almost impossible the longer you stay in it. Yeah, like right there, it's so fast and the bar is so small, which is intended because we don't want the player to sit in it forever. So it gets to the point where it's basically impossible. If I get in this different locker, you'll notice it's still small. And if I hop out, in the meantime, I'll do this. But if you give it time, it will recharge and get back to its default timer. So the bar will be big and it'll be a little slower. So I'll wait about 8 seconds probably, and it'll be back to where it was. It has the same recharge as it does drain, so it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So now it's probably enough time to show the difference. Yeah, it's back. Just like that, and continue on with your day. So for the next one, I will show off the create system for BP locker logic to be used on different meshes. User story. As a player, I want the variety of different meshes that provide the same hiding and skill functionality found in the locker. Currently, the player can only safely hide inside the lockers. Going forward, the team has decided we need a greater variety of hiding places. A system will need to be created that allows easy creation of new meshes that contain the hiding and skill check functionality. Completion criteria. New static meshes now contain the skill check and hiding functionality. The monster still responds correctly to the failed skill check on the new mesh. Creation of a new hiding mesh is easy and simple for another designer to create. For the subtask, create parent blueprint that contains all the hiding and skill check functionality found in BP Locker. Create new child blueprint of BP hiding that works correctly using the inherited logic. Bug test new hiding blueprint to make sure all functionality works as expected. And I logged 1 day of dev time. So right here, these cafeteria tables have the skill check logic. As you can see, you hop in it, you're prompted with a skill check. You'll see it also ramps down. Give it time. Yep, it's starting to get small already. And they also share the timer with the locker. They all share the same recharge drain. So you cannot finesse it and hop in one from the other to reset the timer. And I'll also show what happens if I fail the skill check. Here, I'll let him get right there and pulls me out, swipes me, just like that. So now respawn. So now I can do the create death scene when monster catches player. So create death scene when main monster catches player. User story. As a player, I want a more immersive and scary death interaction between the player and main monster. Description. Currently, when the monster overlaps the player, lose capsule, the death screen instantly pops up and there is no scary or intense interaction. The death scene seeks to add a scary element to the monster player death interaction. Completion criteria. The monster plays an animation when they catch the player. The monster plays a sound when they catch the player. The monster and player both face each other during animation and sound. All values are reset and death screen appears when animation ends. So for subtasks, add main monster logic to face the player or play animation/sound. Add logic to player to face monster, run death screen logic, and monster finishes animation and sound. And I logged 4 hours into this task. So I'll call the monster with this. He'll come running. Even if I'm facing this way, I'll reface the monster and he'll get me. So I'll do it again. I'm facing to the side. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that one. So for the refined lighting event logic inside game mode, this was just a simple task because we're going to include the darkness monster and I needed to apply his logic to the overall, or his game mode logic to our default game mode logic as I had it in a separate one. I did this, but unfortunately the darkness monster got cut, so this will not be evident inside the game at all. But I logged 4 hours into that. So now for the last one, make BP flashlight cost the siren monster. Here, I'll read that when I get the flashlight. Kind of finesse the monster a little bit, get beside him. So I think I can just sprint over here and run to this. He should get me. Yeah. So flashlight's just in here to the right. Go ahead and pick that up. Alright, now we have the flashlight. So, make BP flashlight cause the siren monster to despawn and slow the main monster movement speed. User story. As a player, I want a mechanic that allows me to defend myself against the main monster and siren enemy. I accidentally did put a space right there, or did put a space right there. Description. As of now, if you're far away from lighting, there's very little player can do to escape the monster. Flashlight can be used to shine light on the monster to give the player the opportunity to buy some extra time. This, unfortunately, I forgot to change. This was when originally the flashlight was going to be for the darkness monster, but when that got cut, it got swapped over to the main monster and siren instead. Completion criteria. The siren monster despawns upon the flashlight shining light onto them. The flashlight is balanced in such a way that the player can't constantly use it to avoid the monster completely. This also isn't changed correctly because we also decided to add the main monster to slow his movement speed when the light gets shined on him. Add traces that fire off with the light when the flashlight is turned on. Add siren monster despawn function upon colliding with traces from the flashlight. Bug test new flashlight functionality. Add functionality that slows down the main monster movement speed while the flashlight is being shined towards it. And I logged a day and 2 hours into this total. So to show this off, there's a siren monster over here. Let's shine the light on him. We start to see spawning. I think there's another one right here. I'll let him hit me. It's hard to see without the flashlight, but I'm pretty sure he's somewhere right here. I don't want to shine the light on him. I guess he's not. Oh, you see, he's slowed down when I have the light on him. If I'm back up to this wall, he's still gonna get me anyway. But yeah, his default speed is, I believe, 450. And with the flashlight, it's 350, which isn't a crazy difference, but it's enough to notice and slow him down to escape. Here, I'll think where's the siren enemy? Right here. See, he's alerting the main monster, but when I shine the light, he despawns. And to show off the main monster's difference in speed, I'll do it in this like straightaway right here. So he's running over here. So you see his normal speed. Shine the light on him. He's a little bit slower. You can notice it a little bit, but it's not anything crazy. Back up against the wall, it hits me. But yeah. So that is all my tasks. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Baltazar, and today I'll be showing you the AI detection mechanic that I've been working on for the game so that no one will cry in Project Team Lunar. So let's just open this up. See the splash screen right here. So before we start the game, let's go over the Jira tasks. And as you can see, AI site detection system, similar to the one you see in Far Cry. So as a player, I want to know if I was spotted by the enemy so I can plan my next course of action. Right? When the player is around the enemy, the player will be notified if the enemy sees/doesn't see the player via a gauge/scale. The scale ranges from not visible to totally detected, on which an enemy will pursue the player. The scale will be able to both rise and fall based on how well the enemy sees the player, regardless if the player sees the enemy. Now, I must preference that it was recently changed, so instead of uh, the gauge filling up once and after the gauge is fully like after the gauge is completely full, the enemy will start chasing. The enemy will start chasing. The gauge will fill up, just symbolize where the enemy is. And the only time it'll lower is when the enemy no longer sees you and will wander off. But besides that, everything else is pretty much the same. A gauge, player can see, which indicates if the enemy sees the player or not, as I explained. the gauge will nearly automatically fill up. All right, the gauge will rise severity the more visible the player is to the enemy, and you will pursue when gauge is full and everything else below. This took me about 2 days, 7 hours, and 55 minutes to fully complete to the state that was agreed upon with all of the team members. And without further ado, let's get started. So, we start the game. All right, we're wandering here. And since I'll be showing my mechanic instead of playing through the actual level, we're just going to show you the enemy, how it looks at you. You see, it chases you, the gauge fills up, and now, if we can wait a moment. Nope, a little tutorial here. And as you can see, the gauge is gone. Oh, gauge came back. Let's retry that one more time. Oh, different map. No, wait, same map. Just to show you. Um, oh wait, he didn't see me just yet. See if I'm obscured. You see it went gray for a second there before coming back to red since enemy turned around the corner. And basically that's how it would work. You saw before how the enemy would how the gauge would completely vanish if you went into a locker completely concealing yourself. And basically that's how my mechanic works. Mm, there might be some room to fine tune it, but in the state that it's currently in, I can see that works pretty well. And with all that being said, this is Michael Baltazar. That was my AI detection mechanic, and I hope everybody here has a great day.
Hello, my name is Lillian Truex, and I am a part of Team Lunar, and this is going to be our build for our Sprint 1 for game balancing. It opens up here from Perforce. Right, so for a lot of what I did, I will show within the toy box level. And this here is my story for the tutorials. That is what I worked on as I am a UI designer for a role. As a player, I want to be able to see a quick tutorial on how to use a new mechanic when I interact with it for the first time. So when the player interacts with the mechanic for the first time, for example, like picking up the flashlight, the game will pause and a tutorial screen for that mechanic will appear on the player screen. This will tell the player how to use the mechanic and what the mechanic can do for the player. The player will be able to exit this screen whenever they would like. For the completion criteria, a tutorial screen will appear for the skill check mechanic when interacted with for the first time. A tutorial screen will appear for the crowbar and broken door mechanics when interacted with for the first time. A tutorial screen will appear for the flashlight mechanic when interacted with for the first time, as well as the slide through walls, the light puzzle, the key puzzle, and the bottle throw and hazard mechanics. When a tutorial screen for the mechanic has been seen, it will not appear in-game again for that mechanic. And then a tutorials button will be added to the pause menu that will include the tutorial screens for all the tutorials the player has already seen. Here are all of the subtasks, which I will go over. The first one I will show for you today is the light puzzle mechanic. This will actually work best if I go into the basement level. So here is the light box. You go over, and when you first interact with it, the tutorial will pop up saying it's a light box. with an icon, sort of as a visual representation. And it says, to complete the light box, hold down the button until the meter fills to the top and turns green. And this is the subtask for it. A tutorial screen will appear on the player viewport when they interact with the light puzzle for the first time. This will pause the game and give the player information on how to use the mechanic. So you can see the game is paused. There is no music in the background. And then when you click back, it is back to normal. All right. And the second subtask that I will be showing you is the skill check mechanic. Bring it down here. A tutorial screen will be created for when the player first encounters the skill check mechanic. This screen will pause the game and have information to let the player know what the mechanic is and how to interact with it. For this one, I will still be within this level. You do interact with the skill check mechanic right here. And here is the tutorial. It's for hiding because not only do we have it for the lockers, but we have it for tables as well. When hiding, you need to control your breathing to do so to stay hidden. Failing to do so will risk being found. To control your breathing, press spacebar when the line intersects the highlighted portion of the circle. So I did use a lot of the UI that was made for specifically the skill check mechanic. That way it is much easier for the player to understand what they are looking at and what to expect. Again, it paused and then it's back unpaused when the tutorial goes away. And now if I go towards the lockers, it does not appear again. For the third, I will be showing you the screen for the crowbar and broken door mechanic. So bring that down here. There will be a tutorial screen made for the crowbar / broken door mechanic and will appear on the player's screen when they first encounter a crowbar. This will pause the game for the player and give information about the mechanic and how the player is supposed to interact with the mechanic. For this one, I am going to be going to the broken door level. As it is easiest, see the crowbar and you pick it up and a tutorial pops up with the crowbars and broken doors. Crowbars can be found lying around. Pick up the crowbar by interacting with it. Once picked up, the crowbar icon will appear at the bottom right. Open broken doors with the crowbar by mashing spacebar. I did want to make the inputs in all caps, so that way it is much better for the player to understand. Again, once it's back, the game is unpaused and they have a crowbar. And for the next one, I'll be showing you the flashlight mechanic. This is a little bit different than the rest of the mechanics as the flashlight is only picked up once, so there is not another instance in where they'll be picking up another flashlight. A tutorial screen will be added to the player's viewport when they first encounter the flashlight. This will pause the game and give the player information about the mechanic and how to use the flashlight. I did update this after watching the analysis playthrough. Update the tutorial to represent the changes being made to the flashlight mechanic based on feedback from the playtest video. This would specifically be how the battery drains and refills on its own, and how the player can use a flashlight against the siren monsters. And so I will show that to you now. For this, I would like to go to the toy box. And then here is the flashlight pickup. And here the tutorial is. Use a flashlight in darker areas to be able to see. Some monsters hate the light. Shine the flashlight at them to help get away. The battery for the flashlight will drain with use and recharge on its own. Press F to turn the flashlight on and off. And there you go, and now the battery's there. That is for the key puzzles, which I will go over in a little bit. All right, so the next one that I will be going over is the slide through walls mechanic. I will bring this over here. A tutorial screen will appear when the player interacts with this mechanic for the first time. The game will pause when the tutorial screen's on the player's viewport, and it will give the player information about the mechanic and how to use it. I had 2 hours and 40 minutes logged in here. And this can actually be seen going over here. So, here's the tutorial. There are certain areas that you can slide through. These areas allow you to traverse somewhere that may not be accessible to the monster. To slide through, press left mouse button near the area. There we go. The next mechanic I will show you, or tutorial, is the key puzzle mechanic. Because mechanics are not supposed to show up again, I will have to go back into the toy box, but the tutorial screen for the key puzzle will appear on the player's viewport when they first interact with the key puzzle. This will pause the game and give the player information about the mechanic and how to approach using this mechanic. Again, I have 2 hours and 40 minutes logged in here. Go back into the toy box. And once you come across these pickups, the tutorial for the key puzzles will appear. There are machines that have parts missing. These parts will be scattered around the area. Pick them up and individually carry them back to the machine in order to progress. Hold L and B or left mouse button to carry an item. The next tutorial I will show you that I have worked on is the bottle throw and hazards mechanic. Here we go. A tutorial screen will appear on the player's viewport and pause the game once the player interacts with the bottle for the first time. This will give the player information about the mechanic and how to use it. Again, I have 2 hours and 40 minutes logged here. Most tutorials have the same components and code for them, so a lot of them have around the same time log for each. Now a bottle is over here. Once I pick it up, the tutorial will be shown. Bottles can be thrown in a ways away to distract monsters. When these bottles land and break, they turn into hazards. Hazards are shards of glass that make noise when stepped on. While crouching, the noise is suppressed. Hold R and B to aim, press L and B to throw, press R and B while aiming to cancel, scroll the wheel up and down to adjust the distance while aiming. It seems like that must have been cut off and I missed it. Alrighty, so that is the tutorial screen for that. The next tutorial screen I will show you is the tutorial for the cage trap. A tutorial screen will appear on the player screen as well as pause the game while it is in the viewport. This screen will give the player information about the cage trap mechanic and how to interact with it. 1 hour and 40 minutes was logged here. This was because I added that tutorial story or task after the playthrough analysis, and I had already made tutorials for them, so it was duplicating. Okay, let's go to the level select, milestone 2 in the cage trap to look at this. Ready? There we go. There are monsters that can trap, there are cages that can trap the monster. Pressing the button will alert the monster to the cage, and when inside, the cage will shut. The monster will be stuck for a short amount of time before breaking the cage open. Broken cages can be fixed with wrenches and used again. Pick up the wrench using L and B, fix the cage with the wrench equipped using L and B. So, and here are the icons that I have put in there for pressing the button, the monster going in the cage, and the wrench pickup. The next task that I will show you that I worked on is the tutorial screens only appear once per mechanic. So a great one to show for that, here, I will bring this up. 4 hours logged here. It did take me some time. Tutorials for each mechanic will only appear on a player's viewport in-game once they interacted with that specific mechanic for the first time. The other times the player interacts with that mechanic, the tutorial will not appear on the player's viewport. I think a great one to show this better with will be the bottle mechanic. Here's the tutorial. Now I can throw the bottle all the way over there, and if I try to collect another one, the tutorial will not show. And the same with this, the key puzzles. And now if I go towards another key puzzle, it will not do that. Even with the light box. Oh, the tutorials are turned off for this level, but you have seen that tutorial screens will only appear once. The next task I will show you that I worked on was the tutorial button added to the pause menu. You actually see it right here. But here is this. There will be tutorials button added to the pause menu that, when opened, will show a tutorials menu and will give the player access to all the tutorials they have been shown to review the information. This took me a while. It took me 4 hours. And here it is. As you see, there for all of the other mechanics, they are grayed out. I cannot click on them. And up here it explains that every tutorial you encounter in-game will become available here for you to review. So since we saw the bottles tutorial and the key puzzle tutorial, I can open these and review that information since I have already seen them. And I will even show you with the flashlight. I see the tutorial here. Now, when I go into the tutorials, the flashlight will be available for me to review that information. Alrighty, and then the next task that I worked on, I go back here. I worked on creating the crouching widget, which I will show here. Right, a widget with a crouching icon so the player has visual feedback that they are crouched. Right, and I can show that to you here. At the bottom left corner, you see the crouching widget. It appears whenever the player is crouched. The final task that I worked on was trying to fix a bug with the volume sliders not saving their position. Now this was a little tricky as for me in the editor, it does save the position for me for some unknown reason, but it does not for other users. And this still is not fixed. I thought it was, but it's not. But I did spend an hour trying to fix it. So for other users, the volume sliders in the options menu does not save its position when they exit the options menu. The expected result is that the volume sliders save their position even after the player exits the game. To go to replicate, you go into the game, open the options menu, change the volumes with the volume sliders, exit the option menu, and go back into the game, pause the game, and go back into the options menu again, and you'll see that the volume sliders position does not save. And that is right in here. So if I change this, and then go back into it, it does not save in the build for me either. So this is something that I will be working on next sprint, but that is another issue that I tried working on this sprint. Those are all of my tasks I have worked on with their Jira stories and time logged. Thank you so much for watching.